Welcome to Jackal DIY and Tech. In today's video, we'll be replacing the thermal paste and thermal pads on this Inno3D RTX 3060 Ti GPU. So the first thing that we have to do is to flip it around and take out some screws. This should be an easy task, a bit tedious maybe, depending on how many screws the GPU has. And also make a list so you know how the screws were put in place. I do see we have some blue stuff on the screws. This is a thread lock, so I would say this GPU was put together in high quality. So that is that. This is for the back plate maybe. We still have these screws holding the back plate in place, but to get that off we have to get the heatsink off, and I'll take these screws out. So that's 3, and we should have 2 on this side. This shroud should come off. I'm just looking if I even have to take this shroud off, because I don't get any access to any screws, only the screws for the fans. So I don't actually think I have to take this one off, not from the sides anyway. I did have to unscrew these holes, so I'll just put the small screws back. So what we just have to do is unscrew these screws, and these are the only screws that connect to the whole heatsink. Maybe also remember how many turns you have to do to untighten it, to unscrew the whole screw, so you know how to put it back. And this is really iffy, if I'm being honest. It's so tight. This one's better. 1, 2, so I'll go with 2 for all of them at the moment. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's put this one back and go with 1, 2, 1, 2. This one is very difficult. That's 3, and that's 4, 4. So this one's already out at 4. This one took a bit more. Let's go on this one. I'm not liking this sound. As you can see, I have an issue right here. This got pulled out, so I'll have to unscrew this and put it back in, and I won't be able to do this by hand. And as for the thermal pads, I think they're okay. The thermal paste though, it looks liquidy, but it is also a bit dried up, so I'll have to clean that. Otherwise, not too much issues, but I'll replace everything. So I went and got some paper towels, some swabs, some isopropyl alcohol, 96%, and pliers. So let's fix this issue first, and maybe what I need to do as well is unclip the fans, and maybe one is also for the LEDs. So this is now separated. I will at the moment focus on this. Let's see if I can just unscrew this. Would be too nice if that was possible. So I'll now have to be careful how I hold this with the pliers, because I also have to use the screwdriver from the other side. So that is taken care of for now. I will put this back in before I lose it. And I see we have some shavings. Screw this one back in and tighten it. That should be okay. I'll take a swab, dip it into the alcohol and take this paste off. That is dry, as you can see, and clean this as best as you can. The build quality on this heatsink and heat pipes is not the best. We can see some grooves or scratches when this one is polished, and also we have deep scratches between the pipes. This should ideally be like one smooth layer. I will also take the pads off, but leave them intact just in case I don't have the same thickness of thermal pads. So the heatsink is done. Now let's take our focus to the PCB. I will now clean the chip of the GPU. So I should see some improvements when it comes to the cooling, because this paste was a bit crispy. We don't have to worry about the thermal paste that is around the chip, as it's non-conductive, otherwise we would have to clean everything. You can still do that and remove some of the pieces if they are loose, but if you would have to poke too hard, I suggest you don't do it, so you don't knock off any components. I think that should do it. And now let me take a look at my thermal pads. So the thinnest that I can go is a 1mm thermal pad, but I need to take my calipers and see if I can replace all of these or if I'll just have to use those. So I have the calipers here, turn them on, zero this out, and let's see. I'll just take this piece. Kind of have a feeling this is 0.5mm. It looks like it is. So it's close to 0.6. Does the thermal pad squish that much? I kind of doubt it. So this thermal pad is 1mm thick, at least it should be. Would I be able to use this thermal pad to replace the ones that were inside? I can get down to the dimensions of that one, the original, but this is like rubber, it doesn't really stay in place, because when I've tightened it, it pushed back out. So I'm not really positive if I should replace these thermal pads. So what I think I'll do is I'll use the original thermal pads instead of the 1mm one, because I don't want to have any issues. Also this pad is 1mm one, so I guess I can replace it, and that will go for all of the other pads. I'll just yellow it and see how it goes. So let's take these pads off. So that is done, and now I have to cut this thermal pad into size to cover all of the chips that were previously covered. Let's see if I can use this X-Acto knife to do that, otherwise I'll have to find something else. To do that more easily, I should use a tape measure or something, but I'll just eyeball it. Let's see how this one fits. It will fit nicely, so I need another one. So this will be the second one. I'm left with one big piece that I could use here. Now I need one long piece, so I can basically do a whole piece that goes all the way to this point. Maybe I'll do this strip in this way. That should cover these two pieces nicely. And now I need one piece for this one, and this one, and maybe also this one. And that's it. Now I just have to put it back together. Well, actually that is almost it. What I'm missing is some thermal paste in the middle. And I'll be using some MX5 to do that. And how much should you use? Enough to cover the whole die. This one is a bit gooey. I think that should do it. You also have to remember that the heatsink has some holes and these have to be filled in. And now before I close it, I'll put the fans and the LED connectors back in. And put this on, turn this round, make sure that the holes are lined up. I'll put the screws in and go diagonally. So that looks to be okay, but before I tighten this down, I'll put also these screws in so that it holds the back plate. 1, 2. And now I can tighten them one by one, and I'll be doing this diagonally so that the pressure spreads out evenly. I think it looks okay. That will only be visible once I plug the cord in and do some testing, and that should be it. Now one final thing that I found funny about this cord is the warranty void if removed sticker. As you saw, I didn't actually have to remove it to make the changes. So what do you have access to if you remove this sticker? Well, you have access to the PCB from the bottom when you take off this backplate, which I guess you would only do if you do a repair on this board, but that is out of my qualification. And that is how you can replace the thermal paste and thermal pads on this GPU. Some GPUs have more screws, but once you open it, replace the thermal paste and thermal pads to give back life to the old GPU, which will then behave like a new one. And that is something that you should do if you use the GPU a lot. I will leave the links to the tools that I have used to make this repair in the description, so if you have something that you need to do with your GPU and maybe even your CPU, you will be able to do it on your own. And if you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel to see more tech and DIY videos. And next time we'll do something else.